Mandela. Sante. Sante sana. Gracias. Arigato. Aho. I'm trying to say thanks in every language I could remember because this is really touching to see so many, and thanks to the Cross Cultural Center, that's what it's all about. So many brothers and sisters coming together to make something happen. And I can't say thank you enough. I can't say asante enough. And I also want to give thanks to the elders, like I always do before I start trying to convey these words to you that I'm not so adept at doing. Because like I tell everyone, my role in the movement was not the one behind the mic. It's hard to try to, after 27 years, come and make you understand that during those 27 years, you've been told a lot of stories, like we say down home, a lot of lies and a lot of untruths, and I've always dealt with truth. I could have left prison a long time ago. They offered me big money. I could have escaped. But you charged me with a murder I didn't do. I'm not going nowhere until you clear it up. And I would tell you, I don't care. You know, that woman had a life. Mrs. Carolyn Olson had a life that was used like so many of us was used and expended. And her life was wasted by these vicious programs. And I wanted to know. I wanted the truth to come out. But I was in a hole. They put me in a hole for the first 8 years. No visits. They attacked me. All I wanted to do is expose the truth. Everything about the revolution, everything about everything else got to be on hold. I want to expose the truth that my mother did not raise a murderer. And don't put that on me. And that Mrs. Olson, we learned, was a very progressive person who was a part of the anti-war movement at the time. And strangely enough, she's dead, I'm in prison. What something is not working here, you know? So I wanted to expose that. I didn't know about Nixon then. I didn't know about COINTELPRO then. But I knew something was amiss, and I knew it was more than the little peons they had around here and the LA and area LAPD, and Sheriff's Department who was playing their little FBI games. I knew it was more than that. But at the time, we did not know that Richard Nixon and his girlfriend, J. Edgar Hoover, had plotted to kill and destroy one of the most beautiful movements that history has ever seen. And these sick individuals were allowed to get away with it. And when it was exposed, and I was in Folsom Prison facing sadistic guards who were shooting us with guns, and all kind of manipulated prisoners who were trying to stab and kill. While this was going on, Nixon is being exposed, if you're old enough to remember during the Watergate hearings, as a criminal. And later on, J. Edgar Hoover and all the rest of them. So it stands to reason if they're exposed as criminals and they're the ones who put us in prison, then we can't both be criminals. So I wondered, well, what's happening? But I'm in prison. We didn't have TVs and radios back then. We hardly got any mail. We hardly got any visits back during those years, those first 8 years in prison. So communications was hard coming both in and out, but it would baffle me what is going on. This man has been exposed as one of the worst criminals that ever sit in that house. And all of the details of the Watergate papers, everything that was revealed during the, all the corruption around Vietnam, and the attacks against the Black Liberation Movement and other movements, the Asian Liberation Movement, the Mexican Liberation Movements, all of the movements back then, the Native Liberation Movement, no one was left untouched. And nothing was being done. Oh, he's going to be kicked out of office. You know, we're going to do that, and we're going to send him, you know, we understand. And it was strange that we went to San Quentin and he went to San Clemente. It didn't add up. Now here's this man who's responsible for the death and destruction of so much. You know, so this is one of the things that I always try to encourage people to wake up, because so much has led you down paths that have you believing that when you see me 27 years later, that you come up to me and you ask me for an autograph. And I love you for your sentiment, but it tells me that you don't know who I am. I'm not a movie star. You said, I don't mean to hurt your feelings. It happens everywhere I go that I did not join the movement to sign autographs. I did not join the movement to become world renowned for fortune or fame or for your money or for anything. I joined the movement to win. And that's the bottom line. And it's very natural for people who are in that business, such as movie stars, to promote themselves. They come up, they give you an autograph. But you ask me that, and I want to put the name after I explain to you, because I don't want to hurt your feelings, because I know you're coming in good spirit. But I have to explain that to you. We are under collective discipline, not to promote ourselves. We cannot promote ourselves. We can only promote the revolution, the struggle. We do not promote personalities. We promote principles. So with that, please understand that a person who stays in a situation and struggles in a situation such as what's going on with Ruchell McGee, with Hugo Pernell, with Leonard Peltier, Suni Ada Akali, Dr. Mutulu Shakur, Marilyn Buck, Susan Rosenberg, on and on and on, that we don't care if you form committees out here and say, free this person, free that person. If you put our names on posters, we didn't join the movement for that. We didn't join the movement saying that if we get busted, we're going to turn around and sit in those prisons and criticize everybody in the country because they're not coming to our aid. We understood that we were making that sacrifice. And we did not expect, this is why I'm so surprised, that the people will adopt and champion these causes that are worthy, and rightly so, by the way. But I'm trying to tell you how we look at it. With Mumia sitting up there on death row, he understands when he joined, just like we all did, that we were going to go to prison, that we were going to be driven underground, that we were going to be killed, that we were going to be exiled, because we knew the nature of our enemy. And if you think anything other, you are playing a dangerous game, because we are faced with a very vicious enemy. Now, how to define that enemy, that's another question. You hear a lot of people, especially in the New African, what we call New African or black communities, them white folks this, white folks that, the white folks, mistake. Our enemies cannot be defined by race. That's a big mistake. Now, we got to be careful with that. In fact, a further caution is that you better watch that brother next to you and that sister next to you a lot of cases, because that's something that has to be worked out, and it's endemic in every ethnic group, every national liberation movement that takes place not only in this country but throughout the world, because they're heavily infiltrated with people who like to play cops, who like to operate from that premise of what Che Guevara used to refer to as mechanical discipline, and get the big buck mercenarily to go and to do anything that old master tell him to do or her to do. So stay very cautious about these things and be very cognizant of the fact that our enemies has to be known. Sun Tzu said, know your enemy and know yourself in 1,000 battles, you will never be defeated. You have to define your enemies accurately, else you're going to be defeated time and time again. If someone sends their killer dogs after you, are you going to spend the rest of your life plotting and trying to kill those killer dogs, or getting at the people that train them and kill them? It's as simple as that. We have to study and become more sophisticated in our approach to solving these problems, and trying to bring forth the truth after 27 years. And I see all these misconceptions of, oh, he's a movie star, and I can understand that. I don't blame you. I see brothers that were and sisters who were with us in the 60s. I see them, I don't even recognize them. They're around there talking about selling the Black Panther. Now, I'm going to sell the Black Panther party. One in Dallas, I just left Dallas a few days ago, down there trying to copyright the Black Panther Party, so other people can't use the name. He went to the judge, and some people using the name. He tell the judge, we want injunction, we want to put in jail, we were real Panthers. I mean, it blows my mind, especially after Bunchy has died, George has died, Fred Hampton, Little Mark, Fred Bennett, so many, Carl Hampton. I mean, so many have died, so many are still in prison. And these people are out here, what we call black power pimps, doing this. And it's wrong, and they see me coming and they hide. The dude who was doing that wouldn't come to the meeting in Dallas because he came around 74 when there was no more Panthers as we knew it. They were all pimps and Superfly, and they had been infiltrated, and they were promoting Democratic Party principles, which was not the original intent, and it had been usurped and co-opted by then. And when you study history, you will learn that. So he wouldn't come because he couldn't face the truth. So hopefully that will be resolved, but it's happening all over. Where I go, I try to explain the truth as we know it. You have to understand that we join and struggle into this movement not to be a part of no Democratic Party. We join because we believe, as we still do today, that Africans in this country constitute the second largest African nation in the world. Next to Nigeria, we constitute the second largest in the world. We have the wherewithal to fill an entire nation. We have over $600 billion a year go through our nation. We have the brain power that will surpass any, I think, of the world. We have the skills, we have a common language, common culture, common everything. We still turn around and call Clinton our president. This don't seem right to us. You see, we have a right to elect our own leadership, to govern our own selves. And this is what we fought for. Read the 10-point of the programs of the Panthers, of other organizations back in the 60s. And it states very clear that we call for a United Nations supervised plebiscite to let it be known what we want, not some hand-picked leaders that you put and impose upon us who tell you, oh, we want this. They do not speak for us. Let us speak for ourselves. And we've been calling for this for years. This country prides itself on democratic principles, on democracy. Well, to us, this is the epitome of that, the plebiscite. We don't want y'all involved in it. We want the United Nations to supervise it because we don't trust the United States. And it's as clear as that. If they're involved in it, I'm not going to have anything to do with it. But the referendums and the surveys we took in the 60s, if you remember, even Newsweek did one, I think in 1969. And they polled all throughout the country, and it came back 92% in support of not only the Black Panther Party, but nationhood, national independence. Then right after that, they escalated their COINTELPRO attacks. It's a shame for us to be so large, so huge, so capable, so qualified, that we still turn around and let old massa could patrol our communities while our children are dying with this dope, send our children to their schools where they miseducate them and confuse them with this cultural invasions. It's a shame that we have not called for a state of emergency at the alarming rate in which our young men and women are going to prison. And we're sitting down here. It's a shame. And you're going to the White House, you're going to Capitol Hill, you're going to someone else. Old massa, oh, can I do this? Can I start this program? Old massa, yeah, you could do that, give you a few million, and turn around and build 50 prisons behind your back, and hire your nephews and your nieces to work in the prisons to shoot us and to kill us. I just left them. I just left a little brother, a little Crip, standing up arguing with another Crip. Didn't throw no blows. Before he knew it, a bullet goes through his head, the whole back of his head blown out, right there in Tehachapi prison. I was there. He didn't even throw a blow. We looked. The guard that killed him was blacker than midnight. A black guard. The same way in Soledad, Same way in folks. You got Mexican guards killing young, beautiful, promising Mexican prisoners. It's a damn shame they got you killing your own sons and daughters. And you sit down here and we don't do nothing about it. It should be a state of emergency. That this is a form of genocide. These prisons are nothing but tools that's used to further this war of genocide against peoples of color especially. And it's a shame if you could see what they're doing to the black and the brown prisoners in those prisons today. It was a shame when I went in, but it ain't nothing like it is today with those young brothers coming in, confused, not knowing, meaning well, coming from a street that done gave them drugs, that done victimized them, to call them gang, blamed them, when you know it's coming from Langley, Virginia. And you're going to blame those young brothers. Well, you drove by and shoot. Well, you manipulate. Let's talk. We're in college right now. Let's talk about some philosophy. Let's talk about indeterminism versus determinism. Let's talk about free will versus lack of free will. Let's talk about at what point does a person become a criminal, and at what point does society put him in that situation where he can do no other? Let's talk philosophy, if you want to get at it from that angle. Either way you look at it is wrong. Like the brother professor just said, they're the worst criminals in the world up there. And everybody knows it. They do not do one day behind those walls. That has to change. We don't want to put anybody in prison. I advocate the abolition of prison. I'm known as a prison abolitionist. I think we can create societies where there won't be a need for prison. I think people with the hearts of a Bill Paparian can exist and can multiply and can flourish where we can get along together and we can regulate ourselves in a social, civilized way that we won't need any prisons. I really believe that because I've looked into the souls of brothers who's come in those prisons of all nationalities who didn't need to be there also and who were manipulated, who were more or less put in that situation. We give the analogy of the pool cue hitting the cue ball hitting the 4-ball, the 4-ball hitting the 7-ball. At what point did it begin? Are you going to blame that 8-ball when it falls in the pocket for falling in the pocket? Are you going to blame the 4-ball for hitting the 8-ball? Or the 3-ball for hitting the 4-ball? Or the cue stick for hitting all that? So it's a concatenation that deserves and is worthy of study. You cannot understand anything in isolation. When you try to do that, you confuse yourself and you become a willing servant of the powers that be who are quickly at your side to manipulate you. Here, what you want? Because they know you stunk. Because you did not see the interconnecting events that led up to this. But if I was a Rockefeller or some of those rich people, their names won't come to right now, and I do a crime, then you're going to say, oh, the Twinkie defense, oh, he ate some Twinkies. Or he did thus and so. And it doesn't matter what color you are. As you know, I don't want to mention any cases. It doesn't matter what color you are. You got that money, you're not going to prison. If you do, you're coming right out. They're going to put you in a country club, and you're coming right out because money talk. But this brother who don't have this money, who don't have these situations, you condemn him to death. You put him on these yards. You put sadistic guards who hasn't even finished college, don't even have GEDs over them with 30s and manipulate them to get in little arguments so they can shoot them. That's murder. That's one of the coldest forms of murder I've ever seen in my life. To sit there and see where that balcony is? They don't be that high with those guns. And I was a sharpshooter, expert in the service. That close with high-powered rifles. And you ought to see their bodies when they get through shooting them. And don't let another one be stabbing them. This is one of the ugliest things you're ever going to see, and it's more prevalent in the California prisons than anywhere in the country. And they put all this propaganda out. You go for it, you vote for these resolutions and these initiatives to build more prisoners. It's not the solution. You continue, you're creating a monster so large that you're not going to be able to control. And it's already out of control. And guess who it's going to come back on? You see? Poor, innocent people walking down the street in the community. This person is being let out of Pelican Bay after he's been whipped, tortured, and they do torture you. And I can attest to that personally. And you let him back out on the streets. He's mad. He's mad because society didn't understand that he only wanted to go to the store to get a little something, something like they say, for his son, for his daughter who was hungry. And what they do, they put him in prison, all right, 10 years. But that's life in these California prisons. Because as soon as you come in, they're going to say, oh, what is he? Oh, he's Emmy. Oh, he's a Nuestra Familia. Oh, he's black, he's BGF. Oh, he's a Crip, he's a Blood. Oh, he's Asian, he's Tong. These brothers, most of them, they've even heard of these things. But within 24 hours, they are already signed up and their death warrant is signed. Because once they put them on those tiers that's designated these different things, those people that they are fighting with in those prisons are going to target them. And by them being newcomers and unaware and naive to a lot of things, they're usually the ones that you hear about, oh, he got stabbed this morning on the lower yard. Oh, they hit him about 15 times. He probably died after the 5th hit, you know, dead. Somebody's son didn't do nothing. It's happening so often that I think people should look into it more closely, examine it and scrutinize it more closely because, like the old saying goes, they come for me in the morning, they're coming for you that night. So you better pay attention because the prison industrial complex is a monster that's out of control. And it's because these propagandists, they keep selling it to you, and it keeps going in that vicious cycle. I had to talk to some brothers before I left prison. Man, when I get out, them so-and-sos, man, they give me unjust trial. You just wait till I get out. Some innocent person. I said, now what did they have to do? I don't care. It looked like that prison guard that set my, you know what I'm saying? They just look like, you know, and you got to sit down and you try to educate them as much as you can. And we need more of that from the older generation because our ranks are getting thin. They put so much on us in there. I had classes in prison up to 60, 70 strong. The warden will come and break it up. I tell them, don't leave. I'm from the old school. Make the warden go get the goon squad, make him shoot us. Then he'll shoot us for something. Then we can start a movement. Then they back up when they send me out of prison. Because I'm going to tell them the truth. And we got to continue to do that and continue to try to bring forth the truth about what we fought for. I can't stress enough the importance of letting us speak for ourselves to everyone. And when you get questions about, oh, he's preaching separation, you better study our history. You better study our history. We were the first to coalesce with my kinfolks, the Native American movement, American Indian movement. We were the first to coalesce with the Asian liberation movement. I remember them by first name from the 60s. The Chicano, Mexicano liberation movement. I want to salute Metro. And I also want to say to the young Mexicano brothers and sisters that I was very surprised to learn that you didn't know nothing about the Brown Berets. Those were champions. You're talking about the Black Panthers. We, Corky Gonzalez, and we worked very closely with the Brown Berets when the racist pigs would go into the Mexicano communities, into the barrios and whatnot, and just, you know, like they did in the African communities. We would come together. We would patrol together. You should read your history. We had beautiful coalitions with our brothers from the Mexicano and sisters from the Chicano and Mexicano communities. And I always encourage you, if you don't know, you learn everything you can learn about the Brown Berets, because that was a very, very powerful organization, which some say was a carbon copy of the Black Panther Party in Brown, but it was very, very important to your history. And I always encourage my Brown brothers to learn that so you can teach the younger brothers, because they sacrificed so much and they were also targeted by COINTELPRO. And you also have to understand, COINTELPRO was the acronym, was the name of the operation that the FBI launched against the movement. Operation Chaos, C-H-A-O-S, was the CIA's operation against the movement. So when you study your history, don't forget to study Operation Chaos, and then you will have a deeper understanding of how deep and how to what lengths Nixon and those went to destabilize, to neutralize, to kill off our various movements. We like to point out that they spent more money trying to overthrow us than they did to overthrow Allende in Chile, and they boast about that. I grew up in the swamps in lower Louisiana, the Chapalaya swamplands. It's a part of the Mississippi Delta. I was born into a tradition of resistance. My uncle was a part of the UNIA before I was born, Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association. He was a legionnaire. He organized largely in the South. A lot of people don't know that. And when I was born, we were born into a situation where the older members of the community, who were usually deacons, a lot was centered around the church, would be the ones to protect the church from Klan violence. The Klan would come, burn their crosses and whatnot. The preachers would preach, be the Martin Luther Kings, and the deacons would be the Malcolm X's, so to speak. Though they wouldn't speak, they would be the ones to protect the church. You may have heard of the Deacons for Defense and Justice and other groups that came about because of that. I was born into that. When I finished our little segregated high school across the track, I, like most of my fellow, it was only 17 of us graduated. I wanted to go to Grambling, Southern, play football and chase the girls and whatnot. But the elders counseled us and told us that, look, you are the young soldiers now. We have been in Korea and whatnot, World War II, but we're getting old. So you have to fill our ranks. So they advised us to join the Army, and we always followed the elders' advice. And that's how I ended up in the Army. And I always wanted to make that clear because I'm not a hypocrite. I don't like people to think things other than, I'm a Vietnam vet. I have a lot of comrades who are Vietnam vets. But I didn't join the Army out of any sense of patriotism to the United States. I want to make that very clear. I joined because my elders advised me to join. Me, Maxie O'Brien, Frank Francis, Tony Delco, and Jesse Bradford out that little, small swamp town in Lower Louisiana. We meant nobody no ill will. We did what the elders told us to do because they never told us wrong. So I went and I joined, and within a few months they had me in Santo Domingo, and in a few more months I'm in Vietnam. I mean, as soon as I got in, it didn't stop, constant warfare. And then Martin Luther King was killed, and it was like King was like the God of the older people. And Malcolm was like our God. We were the young, crazy people, okay? So we like Malcolm, but we respected the elders. And when they said we do what they tell us to do, we supported Martin Luther King, and we love Martin Luther King through the wisdom of the elders. But when Martin Luther King was killed, April 4 of 1968, they sent out a call, the elders, Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Florida. This is not a secret. We can talk about this now. We were told to come home, and we came home. They used to sing, "We shall study war no more." That wasn't the hymn they were singing. They told us, we have to defend these communities. They have killed our king. All hope is lost. So now we got the backing of the elders. So I did my thing. I did what I was told. I went throughout every ghetto, every swamp, every one-horse town that they sent me to, teaching people how to defend themselves, what I had learned in the military. I ended up in Philadelphia, ended up in New York, Chicago. When I come out here to work with a young group called the Black Panther Party, they had no idea. Police were killing them at random. they were standing up and shooting back with half-loaded bullets that they had bought from the surplus store. So I took them, and we had classes on how to defend themselves. And for that, I was attacked. A lot of people say, well, you shouldn't say that, but that was my role. I had to build the Ministry of Defense, not only for the Black Panther Party. I had to participate in building it for the Republic of New Africa, for the Mau Mau, for the Texas Black Liberation Front, for the Alabama Black Liberation Front, and so many other groups in this country in the 60s. And though I wasn't behind a mic doing it, I didn't hide it, because under international law, we have a right to defend ourselves. And we knew international law back then real well, and we know it more so today. So in the process of teaching, you hear about the shootouts here in Los Angeles, in New Orleans, in Seattle. Sure, I went there and I told them, I take responsibility for those brothers and sisters doing that, because they were following my orders in every corner of the land. Everything we did, I'll take responsibility for it. Don't give me no credit, but I'm the one who put them out there, who trained them to do that. Don't put them in jail. If you think that there's a law being violated, then attack me. Okay, they came at me. I went to trial. We were acquitted. The jury said, no, the police were wrong, because we were basing it on laws that they couldn't deal with. So what do? First, they come with the Tate LeBlanc murders. Y'all know Charles Manson. Well, Charlie wasn't the first arrested for that. I was. They took me down to Newton Street and tried to, scare me and whatnot. And I don't know what they're talking about, because they would do it so often. But someone had written "off the pig" in blood of the victims on the wall. So automatically all the Panthers did it. So they came and arrested me for the Tate LeBlanc murders. A few weeks later, they arrested Charlie and those. Then they come with another murder. That didn't stick. Criminalization process. So here come the Olsen's murder. That didn't even stick. Johnny Cochran, if he was here, he's more eloquent than I am. He could tell you in more detail. Stuart Hanlon, who was with me all those years, that even at that trial, with the FBI putting an informant agent in the jail with me, an informant agent in Johnny Cochran's office, this is 2, an informant agent on the jury, this is 3, and an informant agent who said I did the murder on the stand, this is 4, and I could continue with some lesser ones, but 4 paid agents to convict me of this. They almost still lost the case. So they spent a lot of money doing these things, and they did it all throughout the country and targeting certain individuals who they wanted to kill. They shot at me. I got bullet holes all in me. That didn't work. So this worked for them. And after that comes the denigration, the slander, the lies and the deceit that people usually go for, because you got high-powered machines, media, that tells you that this guy's the quintessence of evil, that he was out for the destruction of all white people, that he wanted to kill all the Indians, and people begin to believe it all. Well, okay, and it's another prison. They say when war begins, truth is the first casualty, and that's very true. So you have to take everything with a grain of salt that you hear about those days and about today. Rumors and gossip. Be very careful when you hear rumors and gossip about someone who is on your side of the fence and someone is talking about them. Be very careful about that, because that's a common way in which they operate among us and cause those divisions. We have to struggle to keep that unity. What we solidified in the 60s, you hear about the rather underground, but do you know that you still have members still in prison You have Marilyn Buck. I can't talk enough about Marilyn. She's one of my heroes. You've heard of Assata Shakur, but you never heard of Marilyn Buck, who's charged 77 years to life in prison right now with breaking Assata Shakur out of prison. You don't hear about Marilyn Buck and Dr. Matula Shakur, who are convicted for breaking her out of prison. You hear of Angela Davis, but you never hear of Ruchell McGee, who it wouldn't be for his case, you would have never heard of Angela Davis. So I'm not trying to take anything from anyone, but I'm just trying to let you know that there's always more to it than what you see. So you should struggle to see beneath the surface. And the point I'm trying to get across everywhere I go is that because I talked to Bobby Seale and David Hilliard and a lot of the old Kathleen, and I said, Bobby, I heard you one night. I saw you and Tom Hayden. You were at the Democratic Convention, and you were talking about reminiscing about 1968 and the reporter asked you some questions, and you were talking like the whole Black Panther Party was a part of the Democratic Party. Oh, Geronimo, man, you to come out of the pen, man. You know, man. Look, Bobby, shut up. I told him, you shut up, man. Now, Bobby is my brother. That's why I can tell you what I told him. And I love Bobby. Bobby, Huey, and all of them, they were victimized like no other by these dogs. And if you could exist like they existed under such victimization, they spent millions of dollars victimizing those brothers in those various circumstances. That's why don't be too quick to criticize them until you understand the whole picture. But I could do it. And I told him, Bobby, don't let me hear you say that no more, man. Not after all these brothers done died. Oh, gee, I ain't gonna, It ain't that Bobby scared him. Bobby is my elder. But Bobby know we accepted constructive criticism. That's what it was all about. There's nobody above criticism. We weren't a part of no Democratic Party. We were this close for having the plebiscite, the referendums jumping off, where our nation can then finally speak once and for all and say what it wanted without all of these handkerchief-head Negroes who's appointed by old Massa speaking for us. See, let them speak for themselves. That's what we were fighting for. If the plebiscite comes back and you opt, and it's opting for a theocracy, then I'm sorry. That's what the mandate says. Even though I'm not for a theocracy, but that's what the majority of votes says. If it comes back for integration, which like I said before, I don't think it will, because integration has had 30 years of trial. And we've learned now that's not gonna work like that. But if it comes back like that, we're gonna fight to protect that because that's the voice of our people. If it comes back for nationhood, then that's what I really believe it will come back as. From what I understand, from knowing my nation, then all those Crips, all those Bloods, all those vice laws in Chicago, I've been traveling. They come at me and say, gee, man, you out. Well, all of them can be legitimatized. They will have a job. We got a nation to build now. If they get at you, people tell me, oh, you talking about this, you talking about a separate nation, where's it going to be at? You hear about the 13 states? Look, don't go for that. That's a common tactic in opposing. Every nation in the world struggling to determine its own destiny. Here a big old nation is us. Big old rich, powerful, smart, intelligent nation is us. And they saying, no, don't go for that because we tell them, wherever the nation is going to be, it's going to be decided on that plebiscite. I can't answer it. You can't answer it. Only the people collectively can answer that. We put it on the plebiscite. You understand? Because a lot of people get confused and they say, oh, yeah, because I can't see us all going to Georgia, Louisiana, the 13 states theory and all that. All those were good ideological concepts in understanding struggle back during the day. But they were by no means the final solution. The solution is arrived at by the people's vote. Not what I say, but what the people say. That's the epitome of democracy. And if we deny that, then they are being anti-democratic. And we have a right to fight against that. Now, we further advocate these concepts and these ideas because we know this is the only way we can safely arrive at the answer to reparations. Because the way it is now, no one are going to unleash any reparations to us because we're too divided as a nation. Who are they going to let it go to? Like I said before, if they let it go to old Jesse Jackson, then Minister Farrakhan may be hurt. If they let it go to the SCLC, then the NAACP may be hurt. So what we going to do, and what we've been advocating for years, is put that on the ballot. We're going to vote into reality our national treasury. And if it's a mandate vote where the majority of the people say, well, we want Ashaki to be our treasurer, then she's going to be our treasurer. The money is going to flow through what she organized, and it's going to serve, like it's supposed to, 400 years of free labor. It's going to serve to build this nation. The only way we can arrive at it is that way, through the plebiscite. Back in the 60s, we were highly trained. We could have taken over the White House. We could have shot every president they had. We never shot at a president. We could have gone in the Capitol Hill and done all that. But because our elders told us no, we had to listen. We didn't want to. I'm going to tell you right now, we didn't want to. But we had to listen to the wisdom of the elders. And the wisdom of the elders tells us today that you do not go get a gun and do it like that. You have to go this route. Because this route, everybody in the nation has a right to express what he or she so desires. For the first time since our ancestors was so-called emancipated after slavery. And that's a point I want to touch on briefly, because we hear a lot about Frederick Douglass, and Frederick is very important to our history. But Frederick advised the nation wrong and wrongfully when he advised them to opt for assimilation. When you had the majority of the newly freed slaves already organizing their own self-independent, self-reliant, autonomous situations, okay? And so we're trying to straighten this out now. You don't know about Ice Water Jack, like Crispus Attucks, Maroons, half black, half native, who all throughout history, militant resistance. You don't hear about that because we let somebody else write our history. You see, we got to write our own history. We have to bring forth the truth of these things that we use to base our historical struggle on. Why I fight so hard for people and to make them understand why my name is not Pratt. My name is Jijaga. Because I understand the importance of a historical personality. People who have their history intact, they don't seem to understand this that much. But people who have these bifurcated, that two-ness, that schizophrenic situation, not knowing, oh, I'm a Washington, or I'm a Brown, or no, I'm a Nkrumah, or, man, what the hell? I don't know what the, you know what I'm saying? You're culturally confused. Next thing you know, you're going to rob something, you're on dope, you have identity crisis. But once you regain your historical personality, you notice you don't find this among people like that because they got that oneness. So we struggle to tell people about this, that we have to regain our own historical personality. We believe that names carry spirit, the Nomo. That's why they took it. They said, no, you're not Kunta Kinte, you're Toby. You see, and we have to understand that so we can regain our historical personality, so we can move forward into the 21st century as a free and independent nation, governed by ourselves. We have a comity with these people. We don't want to overthrow it. We never sought to overthrow the United States government. They charged me with seditious conspiracy when they busted me in Dallas. They charged Eldridge, they charged David and so many others. And then we're not trying to overthrow the United States government. All we're trying to do is build our own. And we want to be left alone in doing that. You see, when you come into our communities and you put the drugs in there, then arrest our brothers and sisters for selling the drugs you put in there, then put them in prison for selling the drugs you put in there, and you expect me to say, oh, you my leader? I mean, that's absurd. This is almost the year 2000, and it's absurd, it's a shame. You know, I don't know if you studied, but it's called colonialism at first, now neo-colonialism. You got black mayors, you got black this, you got black that, but Malcolm said, like he said, the plantation is still being run the same. Why? Because you're a part of that system that's by its very nature is designed to exploit and to kill you off. And if you don't know that by now, then that means you don't care. You have been tainted by that discipline I told you Che taught us about. See, the other discipline is conscious discipline, where you're in your heart. And you could tell a person, I don't want no $1 million. I don't want no bunch of women. I don't want no long cars or Cadillacs or fine clothes. I want freedom. That's what you want. I want freedom. I don't want my name on no TV. I don't want my name in a book. I don't want all that. I want freedom for this nation, so we can take our place among the nations of the world to lead not only Africa out of what it's going through, but the rest of the world out of what it's going through. We can be at the forefront, at the vanguard, because we survived slavery. That's a big thing. We are very audacious. We are very resilient. We can govern ourselves. Keep that in your mind. Think in that national context. We can govern ourselves, and we can be examples. You think if that vote comes back for national independence, that there are going to be any more drugs in the community? Huh? Were there any drugs in the community in the 60s? You better ask somebody about Bed-Stuy, New York, Watts, Fillmore, South Side. You better ask somebody. We didn't have that. You're not going to put that on our little beautiful children. You're not going to kill our kids off. You see, we can police ourselves. We can govern ourselves. Keep that in the forefront of your mind, not at the detriment of anyone else. And what really propels that is keep also in the forefront of your mind. Because I was talking to Brother John Conyers with the Cobra, the group that set out to get the reparations, and they all keep running into these brick walls. And they're going to continue until we come together and get that national treasury together on the vote. So let's talk about that plebiscite. And let's refer back to the voter registration drives of the early 60s and the late 50s when Brown versus Board of Education said, okay, we can vote now. You know, so we went and we had to learn so we can have an educated ballot. But this time we do it on an international scale. For the plebiscite, like Quebec just recently did, Puerto Rico been trying to do for years and advancing. Hawaii is doing it. And you talk about the nation, if you don't want it in one place, in the South, vote for a nation in place. The Palestinians, vote for where we are at. Let's be declared a nation in place. Then we go for dual citizenship. That's what they don't want you to know. You go for dual citizenship next. And then all kind of doors going to open to you, from the International Monetary Fund to the local banking allowances that you will be qualified for. See, these things we have to study, and we have to tell our people, quit being second fiddle. We don't need nobody to call us outside of ourselves, to call themselves our leader, no more. And we got to get serious about it. We got to get serious about this plebiscite, and we got to get this first referendum done as soon as possible, because if we don't, all these young, wild, crazy, buck wild fools, I love them, throughout these communities, it's going to go more crazier, and you're going to have more innocent people dead. You're going to have more beautiful young brothers and sisters dead in these prisons. And I'm talking about all communities, poor and oppressed communities. If we don't start moving on this, all I'm saying is let the people speak for themselves. And if you think I'm crazy, I want to see you after that first referendum comes back. I don't want to go too long on this, because I wanted to really get across this point that every nation struggling to be free has a right to struggle, a duty to struggle. And if you don't do that, then old Pimpin' Sam, he's going to do it for you. And you can't complain. Because on the international law, on the Geneva Accords, study your international law. And under the latter Helsinki Accords of 77, what we call the Protocols of 77, study those. Under that, we not only have a right, but we have a duty to liberate. As big as this nation is, we have a duty. And we're not the only ones. We have a duty to do this. And we always supported the national liberation struggles of the Americano people, of the Native people, of all people who are struggling to be free. And I encourage you to continue. This is a beautiful example of the Cross-Cultural Center. It's a very beautiful example of what we must do to come together as one to fight against that kind of thing that we've been dealing with all our lives. If we don't come together, we're not going to win. I'm telling you right now. We have to come together. Before you can have internationalism, you have to first have nationalism. We have to first organize out, then we can interact as a nation with national dignity. When they used to call me Geronimo Pratt, I used to get disrespected all the time. But I don't get disrespected no more because people go, oh, that man know who he is. It's the same way with a nation. You keep calling yourself Americans, and you don't even know who Amerigo Vespucci was. If you did, you would never call yourself an American again. Amerigo Vespucci was one of the most despicable characters I've ever studied in history. He used to run dope from Portugal to Spain on the Iberian Peninsula. And it's right there in the archives in Spain, right there in Barcelona. We studied this extensively. He used to run laudanum. That's what they called it back then, from the poppy seed. And it was rumored that they used to take it themselves. That's why they didn't care if they sailed and the earth was flat and they'd fall off because they were full of that dope. So what I'm telling y'all, every time you call yourself an American, you're giving tribute to an Italian drug smuggler. And I don't have nothing against the Italians, but I just want you to know that. So just go join the La Costa Nostra or something. Because we are not that. We are Africans, we are Indians, we are Native, we are Apache, we are whatever we are, whatever we say we are, because we have to define our own reality. We are no longer Toby. We are what we say we are, and you're going to respect it. In the 60s, you wanted to call us colored and Negroes. We came together, we said we're tired of that. We're going to define ourselves. We are black. The first person said, oh, no. We colored, we Negro, and now everybody is black. Then we went through this process, which is ongoing, and we learned, we studied all the nations. We said, well, not one nation in the world refers to themselves with an adjective. Black is an adjective, but you know, we're dealing with the English grammar. So we had to restudy and we go back. But we realized that what we were doing was subconsciously what we were criticizing people all our lives. We were avoiding the fact that we are Africans. And we have to face the fact and be proud of the fact that we were Africans. And that's what we are. And to distinguish ourselves from our mother country, we call ourselves New Africans now. Now you hear a lot of people say, oh, no, no, just like they did with the Black Power movement, what they call it, when we were trying to bring in the term black. In a few years, you're going to hear everybody calling themselves New Africans. They have to. We have to qualify for that plebiscite. We have to get that plebiscite off the ground. And you watch how quick we're going to be at the forefront of the world and leading the nations of the world down the path of what we're all about. And that's love.